Listen, I get it. You have ADHD, so you struggle with executive function. Me too. And the ensuing chaos and accompanying shame build up a certainty inside of you that if you could just learn to executive function like all those neurotypical people around you, life would be easy and you would finally feel happy. Here's the thing. Your brain wasn't wired to executive function like a neurotypical person. Those systems built for neurotypical productivity, doomed to fail. So what's an ADHDer to do? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm Tiff, a neuroscience professor with a PhD and ADHD and a mom of two. And I am on a mission to help women like you with ADHD go from constantly overwhelmed and barely surviving to empowered, energetic, confident, and truly thriving in harmony with your brain so that you can build a life you love. That's what I do here on this channel, and we dive even deeper with the amazing women in my program, the ADHD Success Lab. So what is executive function and why do ADHD brains struggle with it so much? Is it the key to happiness? And then what can we do about it? Here I'm going to share 2 core principles that if you implement them, make your success in almost any endeavor inevitable, even if you are an executive function disaster. So keep watching. So executive function, you can think of like an executive in a company, where it's essentially managing a whole bunch of other functions in your brain. Things like planning and organization, prioritizing, working memory, cognitive flexibility, controlling impulses, goal setting and problem solving, emotional regulation, attention and focus. Executive function requires a brain area called the prefrontal cortex to help regulate all of the functions I just mentioned. And if you were like, dang, I struggle with all of those things, that's because the prefrontal cortex is a brain region that is particularly affected in ADHD. Makes sense, right? Now combine this with the fact that executive function, if we're honest, is pretty much completely unexciting and unrewarding. AKA no dopamine. Put that all together and you have a recipe for ADHD executive function disaster. Now, you have probably watched some of these neurotypical folks with envy, and trust me, I get it, and you're not alone. They seem so organized, they can leave the house one time. Their house might be generally tidy. Things can be put away in things with solid doors, and they don't forget that they exist. And listen, I get it, when you struggle with things that people in society make look relatively easy, and people who don't struggle with executive function cannot for the life of them fathom why you struggle with it, that can be really invalidating and lead to a lot of shame. Trust me, I have been there. Until I was diagnosed at 37, I remember wondering why adulting felt so hard for me, but looked so easy for everyone else around me. I hear from so many women that if they could just be consistent, be more organized, be whatever executive function thing they feel like they aren't, then I'll be happy. This is actually a lie that we tell ourselves, and here's why. ADHD brains just aren't wired like neurotypical brains. That's okay, by the way. And a lot of productivity systems and apps and hacks are geared toward a neurotypical way of executive functioning. In other words, you are set up to fail from the very beginning as if you did not feel bad enough about yourself already. But I want to actually take a look at this idea that we would be happier if we could executive function. It is a very attractive thought that your happiness is just one organized desk, well-executed long-term project, or load of laundry that only had to be washed and dried once. People do that. Can you believe it? Away from all life's happiness. But let's just consider for 1 second, humor me here, what does happiness actually mean? Happiness is a life where you are often experiencing peace and joy and contentment. It's one where you can be present and also are able to notice that you are experiencing good things. It's one where you are making time to do the things that light you up, and where you have time and energy to do the things that align with your needs and your values and your goals for your life. While executive function might possibly make some of these things easier to do, executive function itself does not guarantee happiness. It's not even required to be happy. There are a lot of very well executive functioning people out there who are very, very unhappy. And if you have ADHD, trying to get to happiness through executive function is like constantly living on hard mode. And I can guarantee you that that is definitely not a path to happiness, peace, contentment, and joy. And to be clear, I am not minimizing executive function struggles. I too feel the daily pain of sucking at these apparently easy, basic functions. Not to mention all of the emotional baggage that comes with not being good at those things. I remember being asked by a relative once, "Are you one of those really smart people who has no common sense?" Ouch. But hear me out here. Again, unless what lights you up is executive function, you don't need that to be perfected before you get to move on with the rest of your life. You don't need that to be happy. You just need everything in your life to flow well enough so that you can get to where you need to be. What I'm saying is basically there are no rules. If you are willing to solve the problem well enough to go over or under or around or through whatever obstacles come your way, who cares if your solution is a little bit atypical or other people don't understand it? If it solves your problem well enough for you to get to the important stuff and move on to what you actually want to be doing, that's a win. So by this point, you're probably really annoyed that I'm not telling you what you need instead of executive function. And I hear you. Here you go. And know that I have videos on scheduling and energy and rest on my channel that give you some really specific ideas about ways that you can do all of those things with an ADHD brain in a sustainable way. So I urge you to check those out. But none of those specific things matter as much as adopting these two core principles. And this is fundamental if you want to conquer any big thing in life. It's an experimental mindset. What? What's an experimental mindset? It's curiosity instead of criticism. When you have an experimental mindset, you get curious about what's in your way instead of shaming yourself for the fact that something's in your way. And if you've been with me for a while, you've heard me talk about this idea. Let me lay it out. So curiosity means when you encounter an obstacle, aka you're not quite doing the thing you want to be doing, making the choices you want to be making, instead of berating yourself and saying, I should just be able to do this. Why don't I have the willpower? I should. But the thing is, all the evidence is telling you that in the current situation, you are not continuing to just do the thing that you want to be doing or making the choice you want to be making. Clearly, something's in your way. So let's use that energy to get curious about what is it that's in my way? Can you identify the problem? Once you see the problem, then you can start to think about solutions that would help you get around it. How can I make good decisions easier or bad decisions harder? How can I bias myself toward doing that more often than I was before? For example, when I wanted to drink more water, I kept forgetting my water bottle either at work or at home. I had this perfect water bottle that I love so much. So I just bought another water bottle and kept one at each place. Now this has helped, but new challenges have come up because hydration and ADHD. If you have secrets, let me know. But would some people judge me for having 2 water bottles? Maybe. Do I care? No, not anymore. So you just accept the struggle and try to identify a solution and leave the shame at the door. This is easy to say and harder to do, but it just takes practice and it gets so much easier with time. When you think about it, this sort of experimentation is how you have learned literally every single thing you've ever learned to do in your life. So why should making a change be any different? Humans encounter obstacles. Obstacles are not a flaw in you. There are 3 things I love about an experimental mindset. 1, you cannot fail, you can only learn. The second is that it presumes all problems are solvable. And 3, it ditches the shame and teaches you to just get curious about what's not working and use that energy to move on and keep going. You'll be amazed at how much shame you can siphon away from yourself by just using this experimental mindset. If you try it, let me know how it goes. The second core principle is continuation over consistency. Again, I get it. We all think because it's hard to be consistent when you have ADHD, that must be the answer. But when you really come down to it, if you are getting to where you need to be, does it usually matter how you got there and whether you did it consistently? No. ADHD brains, by definition, show up inconsistently. And that's okay. I work best in bursts. Once I stopped using my energy to shame myself for working and resting in bursts, I got back a whole lot of energy and I was just more productive because that is the way my brain works best. It's just a way my brain works. It is not better or worse than any other way. So give this a try. Often, the minute we're not consistent, we will quit. And because an ADHD brain is by definition inconsistent, we're basically setting ourselves up to fail if we expect consistency. Instead, I want you to commit to continuation because nobody's perfectly consistent. I don't actually think that's achievable. I wouldn't know. I've never achieved consistency in my life. If you move in a certain direction for long enough, you are guaranteed to make progress. It's physics. Consistency sets you up to fail, but continuation makes your success inevitable. We celebrate continuing way more than consistency in the ADHD Success Lab all the time. And then when you combine continuation with that curiosity of the experimental mindset, you make every problem solvable because you know that you will keep going and you will keep testing out different solutions. you are basically guaranteed to get to wherever you want to be. Now, the key here is to pick one small change at a time. Do not, I repeat, do not ADHD yourself into overhauling your entire life, because that is another way to guarantee failure, because it just takes too much energy to maintain all those new things at once. Resist the urge to overhaul. Hold back, keep that dopamine hungry brain just like wanting more, and then give it to your brain as soon as you get that first change nailed down. Give it another little nugget of change, okay? If you feel exhausted by the very idea of change, watch this video next. You got this.